What's going on, guys, and welcome back to episode 3 of Squares and Circles. I'm Eddie from Sub-Zero Bad Co. We got ACL Pro Hunter Thorson, and we got the two-time world champ, the man himself, Jamie Graham. Jamie, welcome to the show, man.
What's up, Eddie? What's up, Hunter?
So we got a lot of beef to discuss today, both carnivore diet and like some raps going on in the cornhole world, but a couple different topics. We obviously wanted to get you on here. You're kind of having a new season here with AAR. You look a lot more comfortable. New doubles partner. You guys are looking good. Hashtag king of second place. But there's obviously been some drama going on lately in the cornhole space, kind of around your world, Carolina Coasters from last season, and some stuff going into this season. I know Tommy Slaker had some time to go on a podcast to kind of talk his side through the thing. So you want to talk through your side of the thing. So why don't you take it up from the top, kind of the whole story of what happened in that situation?
So it was like 3 years ago or something. I don't know the exact date, but it was a Charleston tournament, like 2.5 hours from my house. And I've been going to this tournament for like 6 years now. And it's like a charity tournament, raise a lot of money for the tournament. But we're in like the championship game. We beat Tommy and his partner to get to the king seat, and they make it back. And we lost the first game. Second game, I don't know what the score was, but I do know it was a tight game at the end. And Tommy flips his bag all the time. Well, I'm in my backswing, and as soon as I go to throw, it's like he just drops the bag out of his hand. Okay, so at the time, as a competitor, and I'm a big competitor, I'm automatically thinking that he did it on purpose, just to mess with me to win the game. Because I've also been around people that do stuff like that. I grew up with people who would purposely mess you up and make it look not intentional. So I'm just pissed off. I go off on them. Skip that. Months later, I apologize for it. I told him, I was like, my bad. If you really didn't do it on purpose, I regret what I said. My fault. I thought we moved on. Well, we get to Rock Hill, the first open. Well, throughout the season, I drafted Tommy. We were cool. I drafted him. It was up to me as a captain to even put him on the team. Everybody wanted him, and I was cool with it. Tommy was from the Carolina Conference. That was my goal, to put Carolina people on the coasters. So throughout the season, there was one time where we were playing the Marauders on like live stream, not ESPN, but he was like, I'm about to airmail the first 4 bags in the start of the game. Like, as a captain and the leader of the team and as a competitor, obviously I'm going to tell you don't do that. I mean, why would you do that at the start of a game? See, previously we played Hunter's team on TV, and Tommy airmailed all 4 bags at the end of the game. The game was already over, so he airmailed all 4. That's cool. But why would you want to do that at the very beginning of the game? His excuse on the podcast was we had no chance to make the playoffs. That is 100% a lie, because I think that was maybe the second national, and we made it into the playoffs to last national. So obviously there was a chance. Well, I told him I was going to trade him if he did it. Well, then I told him if he talked crap to Jordan Power, I'll let it go. He can do whatever. Because I figured Jordan Power would talk crap, and it'd be a good watch for the people around watching. So then we go into Rock Hill. No, we go to Worlds. The Coasters make the finals against Cali Slingers. And me and Trevor get into it. Trevor and Chad get into it because the Coasters, we got swept 0-4. We didn't give a good run, but I was still proud of the team, of how we barely made the playoffs. We pushed through, we beat great teams, and we made it. Well, Trevor's negative. He's talking about the team, and I'm constantly telling him to shut up, to stop talking about the team. Well, then finally Chad gets tired of it, and he says something to Trevor. He's like, you're not the reason we're here. We did this without you. You got suspended. That goes on. They get face-to-face. I pull Chad out, and I am pissed because Trevor's doing this while we're still in the live match. Mm-hmm. So people's watching this happen. And so I pulled Chad over, and I was like, dude, just go home. Just go home, go to your hotel, and I'll handle it. So everything's done. We go outside to leave, and Trevor's out there with Tommy. And I just go tell Trevor, I'm not going to say everything. I just basically told him he's off the team. He will not be redrafted coming up in Rock Hill for the draft. And Tommy was like taking up for him. And it was blowing my mind how he was taking up for something like this when you're being so negative towards a team, because Trevor is the hype man of the group. You're supposed to pick us up when we're down, not put us down even more. And so I looked at him and I said, "Oh, you want to take his side? Screw you. You're off the team." And it's wild how it happened, but I end up talking to like Chad, Eric, and we all come to an agreement that we were going to keep Tommy, because he didn't really do anything besides take up for Trevor. Trevor's the one that messed up. So we agreed that we're going to keep Tommy. Well, we get to the first open. This is the part he didn't say in that podcast. He didn't want to say the full story, but this is what happened in Rock Hill. We're sitting there. It's me, my brother, my buddy Jamie and his wife, Chad and Tommy. Well, we're talking about something cornhole-wise, and I don't know how it started, but he threw a shot at me about, like, me losing to Jeremiah as a joke. Well, then he keeps throwing shots, so then I start throwing shots back, basically saying, like, you're no good. Like, how are you going to compare yourself to me? I've been doing this a long time, and you're nowhere close, and you'll never be a world champion. I'm not that type of person. I don't want to throw accolades at you and tell you how good I am, but, like, also don't throw shots at me for no reason. So we go at it back and forth, and he said something about, we brought up, like, I said I threw game changers, you're throwing these. He was like, I'll beat you with game changers, basically. And we were supposed to play a $100 cash game. Well, if you remember Rock Hill, singles, like, was supposed to start at 5. We didn't start till like 7:30, 8 o'clock. So I'm still in the tournament while we're arguing about this. He's out of the tournament. And so I had to play Jack Gore. And in the middle of the game, I don't know what's going on in the background, but my buddy Jamie hears everything. Like, he sees everything going on. Well, apparently during my game, Tommy was talking trash to me while I'm in a live match about playing that cash game and just talking crap. Well, after the game, Jamie comes up and he's like, "Did you hear what Tommy was saying?" I was like, "No." So he told me, blah, blah, blah. They get into it a little bit. Well, the whole next day, I think we had like a meeting with Kat and all the captains, and I was trying to trade him. That was the last straw for me. He was gone. Nobody wanted him. And the reason I'm saying it like that is because in his podcast, he tried to make me look bad because I traded Chad and Berkeley and Frank. He said it didn't make sense. Well, this is why it makes sense. Nobody wanted Tommy by himself. I asked every captain. All of them said no. So I had to come up with something else. Me and Eric kind of like put some players together to get like a Chad and Tommy, maybe as a duo. And then finally Jordan came up with a deal, and we came up with a deal together. It was Chad, Tommy, Frank for Kobe, and their two, I think it was first round and second round picks. It was actually something like back-to-back picks for me. So like it was perfect. The end of first and the beginning of second, something like that. So Eric was like, I don't think we're losing in this situation, but we also may not be winning, which makes sense. As talent-wise, Tommy and Chad were a good duo. Right. Frank's a good player. But at least we weren't losing, and I could get this guy off the team. So I took it. Now, I've been friends with Chad for a long time now. And when we made this trade, I called him right away during the draft and said, "Bro, I'm so sorry. I had to get you off. I had to release you because I had to get Tommy off the team. This is the only way. I tried everything to get Tommy off the team. Nobody wanted him by himself. This is the only way it works. But I just know I respect you, and I am sorry because I really do. I really did want you on the coasters." Well, so we're good. And so Kat announces it for everybody to hear it. And I had this year at the draft, or last year at the draft, we had to go up there and say who we got. You remember that? Like, you had to go to the podium and say all that. So apparently I didn't see this part, but people showed me videos. While I was doing it, Kat like said everything about who who the trade was or whatever. And Tommy like took his jersey and ripped it like that in half in front of everybody. So that to me, that's already being childish and immature. But if that's what he wants to do, then let him do it. So moving on, we're sitting at the table. We're kind of like trying to figure out who we want next in the rounds. Well, he comes up beside our table and just starts going crazy about like saying we're all trash. We're not going to make the playoffs. Just throwing shots after shots. He's drunk for one, and he's acting like an idiot in front of like you got. So you know how at the draft you got the people in the stands, right, watching. But then you got people up top, like right here by our tables, watching the draft too, so they can see us. Well, he does all that. He's saying a bunch of like bad stuff about all of us, me too. And I get up, I'm like, dude, get the F out of here, bro. Like, you're causing a scene. You're acting like an idiot. Go to your team and leave us alone. He won't stop. He's still doing it. So Cat's like right over here to my left, and I'm like, Cat, can you not get him away from us? Then he starts throwing more shots, and Cat gets up, takes him over, and she's like, you better go to your table. And she's like, I'll talk to him from there. They kick him out of the building because he's acting stupid. So that's the part he didn't want to say on the podcast. And he tried to make himself look so good. But this is the Tommy. This is why I'm so glad I traded him. Like, you're gonna act like this, dude. Like it really ain't that serious. It's business. You gave me no choice, and then you act like that. And then we move on from there. I thought it was over with, but apparently, like, I didn't even tell Hunter this, but like he goes to regionals and stuff and wears the coaster hat. He's got a big X mark on the coaster. He wears that as a joke. Like, it's like he's doing all this stuff. I don't. It's crazy, but and then he made the stupid video rapping about me, dissing me, and dissing the coasters, like, and then he threw personal shots, which it is what it is, but I'm never gonna respect that. Like, I don't respect it. He tried to tell me at the last Open that he respects me and all that, but a person I respect, I would never do that in the first place. But I did get mad, and I made a post saying diss track coming soon, but I'm better than that, dude. I'm not doing it. I'm moving on from this. Like, I don't want people to ask me no more about it. If he wants to talk about it, he can talk about it. But for me, I don't have anything to prove to him. Like, obviously, he has said it before. He has watched me and stuff like that. So I don't have nothing to prove. I just want to move on and continue to play, keep grinding. That's all I want to do. Well, but that's pretty much it.
And there's a difference too between, like, you know, rivalries or beef on the boards or whatever, talking shit on the boards and taking personal shots outside of the game and, like, you know, judging someone's character and stuff. Those are two completely different things. And I don't think there's I mean, obviously cornhole's got a lot of drama, but I don't think in any hobby there's really space to, if you do respect someone, to take shots at their person, you know?
Right. Yeah. For example, me and Jeremiah's beef, that was all cool. Like, that was
competitors.
Like, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But he's throwing personal shots. That's not cool.
Right. I mean, and there's been people, go ahead, sorry.
For those of the people that don't know at home, Jamie tried to set up a game like a grudge match style, like Hardball and Weed Whacker, if you remember that last year from the Minnesota National. Jamie tried to squash it. Hey, let's run a 2 out of 3 game. Winner's got all the bragging rights. And Tommy didn't take it, which, I mean, if you were talking all of this shit on social media, you take that match because this is the opportunity that you were hoping for. And so for him not to take that shows the kind of person he is, and leave it.
Well, that's because he's throwing rippers now. He's like, shit, never mind.
And even with this match, bro, it's still a lose-lose for me. Yeah. Like, and that's what my buddy Jamie was telling me. Like, even if I did the match and I won, I'm supposed to win. Like, I should beat Tommy.
Yeah, right.
And if I lose, it's like, okay.
Now you got to deal with that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, honestly, it's a lose-lose, and I don't even want to do it anymore. Like, I was pissed that night we talked about that. Should I do it to prove a point? Yes, but what point do I really have to prove?
Well, that's what you're saying. You're not proving a point. You know?
Right.
It's like, all right, so I proved that, yes, I'm currently ranked higher than you. I've had better placements, and I beat you in a cash game. I'm like, what does that prove, you know?
Right.
And again, I'm not trying to throw shade by any means, but it's just I don't think it's a winning situation in any of the fact. Plus, it's also you playing it. You know, you're now acknowledging that it's real. You know, like that this shit's real. Yeah. It's like rather than just moving on.
Yeah.
Well, let's take from that beef to talk about a different kind of beef, which is more of a positive one, which is over the last couple months, you've kind of gone into this, the carnivore diet, which a lot of people have obviously talked about. It's been popular on social media for people to do in the past, but not a lot of people usually stick with it. Usually, it's a rough couple weeks to start, and then people usually give up, or people are like, oh, it's probably so easy. You just get to eat meat all day. But obviously, it comes with its own levels of struggles or difficulties and whatnot. But then also the positives, which I know you've lost a good amount of weight. You said you're feeling a little bit better. So why don't you talk a little bit about how you got into that, what made you want to do it, and then what's kind of some of the things you've been noticing from the last couple of months?
So like a few months ago, it was all over like my TikTok. I just kept seeing carnivore diet, and I just did some research and looked into it and just kept watching videos on it. And it was just meat and eggs. And like I love meat. I love steak, chicken, fish, like all, and I love eggs. So I was like, you know what, this might be the diet where it could stick and help me in the long run. Well, then I did some more research and I've talked to a few people. Carnivore diet is not something you want to do for the rest of your life. You are really not just the rest of your life, for a long term.
Right.
Like you don't want to do it for a year. You can, there's people out there that do it, but it's really not the healthiest diet to do because of all the red meats and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it just, in my opinion, it's like red meat. I don't eat it every day. I eat other kind of meats too. But if you go to McDonald's every day, you're eventually going to die of a heart attack. I mean, so what's the difference, to be honest? But to me, it has helped mentally, like just being able to do something consistently and staying on track. Unfortunately, I'm not able to do it like perfectly all the time because I got braces. I got braces right after I started, or a month into the carnivore diet, I got braces. And so when you get braces, you can't really chew on anything. So meat's out the window for chewing. And so I had to eat macaroni, mashed potatoes, anything salt that I could actually eat. But overall, I think it's something I'm always going to have the rest of my life since I got it, because I enjoy eating meat and eggs. And I think mentally for me, just losing weight, it don't have to really be the mental part of carnivore. It's just the fact of losing weight, seeing progress, and that mental part helps you, for me, with cornhole, because I mean, you just feel better. You feel better about yourself. You know you're doing something that is healthy and you look better. So like all that plays a factor into your game because you're positive. You go to the tournament and you're confident. Like you know that you lost this weight. People are going to come up to you and make your confidence even higher by saying, wow, you look great. You look better. How much have you lost? Like all that plays a factor into your game. And some, maybe for everybody, it's not just weight loss. It's other things that happen in your life that give your confidence boost. But overall, I encourage people to try it out, because for me, I love it, but some people don't because they don't like to eat meat every day and eggs.
Well, and
But
obviously with a lot of protein too, have you noticed like in these long tournaments, end of the tournaments, with some of the weight loss, like obviously the weight loss being a big part of it, and also like eating good food and stuff, have you had like more energy later on in tournaments and stuff, like not the fatigue a little bit less bad, because obviously all those things play into effect when you're there for 15 hours.
yeah, like you go back to me and Cash's game and you look at the size difference. Like, yes, I'm overweight. Cash is a little kid. He should have the most energy in the world. And you would expected me in that game to just fatigue out. I'd be done. I couldn't go 40 rounds. But honestly, that protein and stuff, it gives you the most energy. Like you're so hyped up without drinking energy drinks. Like you're good. The protein keeps you going. And because the game before Cash, I played almost a 40-round game with Gabriel Clausen. So I was mentally prepared to go 40 rounds that game against Cash. And if I won that game, to go another 40 and then continue that on to win the whole bracket. Because I mean, I'm a bigger guy. I should get tired in that situation, but I get it's also mental too, though. Like if I told myself I was tired, I'm gonna be tired. I mean, it's just gonna be like your mind's gonna trick you. So I always try to stay positive in the moments, no matter what I'm doing, no diet or anything. Just mentally stay positive and tell myself, like, you got this. You train for this for years. You know you can go 40 rounds and not be tired.
Yeah, and then even, I mean, when you're traveling, obviously it's no secret, like you don't always eat the best. So is there any workarounds or tricks that you've used to stay true to your diet on the road?
Yeah, I mean, it's really just how disciplined you want to be on the road. It's like you work all week when you're at home, which I do. I try to work the hardest while I'm not at cornhole because this is the time where I can make the difference in my weight. But when you go on the road and everybody wants this certain food, and like I'm a bigger guy, so I've ate bad food my whole life. So it's like a trigger. It's like, damn, now I really want that. Like,
Yeah.
but that's the part where you got to dig in so hard. Just like when we stayed together, Hunter, and
Yep.
you and my brother got Wingstop. Like I was like, dude, I really want Wingstop. I love wings. And you were like, do you want me to be that type of friend? And I was like, no. And but anyways, I did end up not eating Wingstop that night. I ended up eating my steak and eggs because we went to the grocery store. But it's stuff like that that I have to do every time for a long period of time to make a difference. But I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not perfect. You mess up, but the thing about this is it's okay to mess up as long as you get right back on track after that. As long as you don't take that mess up and turn it into a week to 2 weeks to a month, then you're talking about you just messed every progress you had throughout the last 4 months.
Yeah.
So it's all about discipline, man, for everything you do.
For sure. I mean, like I was just talking to Fisher. Obviously, Fisher, big transformation for him as well. But Landon and Riker were down with Fisher, and they're like, "We've wanted to go to hibachi for a week, but Fisher says it ain't part of his diet, so we ain't going." So there's definitely
that is
a level
good.
of discipline.
I talked to Fisher about that, like his discipline, and yeah, he was very disciplined. That's what you got to do.
I mean, he don't miss a day in the gym. He don't mess up on a meal, which you kind of have to have that almost crazy like mentality to get where you truly want to be.
The trigger's got to flip one day, and you're just like, all right, I'm done. Gotta do it. But maybe that's just a guy thing because I talked to my wife, and she's like, no, it's a gradual thing. I'm like, no, I need to like hit the scale one day, and I'm like, shit, nope, 100% the other direction. We're going all in.
Yeah.
But kind of it's funny, a good segue to the end, the end of that bracket. You had almost 40 round with Gabriel Clausen Jr. Then you got almost a 40 round game with Cash Jr., right?
Junior.
Obviously, Junior's kind of taking over cornhole in terms of like you're seeing this pro elite. I mean, like Zach Aiken winning his bracket, Sammy Soto just winning the last tournament, Jack making the finals again. Obviously, Jack and Jake been around for a little bit longer than some of these new juniors and other kind of seasoned vets. But even Ian Cripps won a shootout last year. Ryan Trader was considered one of the best players in the world last year. It's just like you can name 20 different people right now that all have a chance to make a run. And while I think it's cool that it's the same way that it used to be where Damon Dennis, Frank, all these seniors, Steve can make a run in an event, right? It's also like these young kids, but also it comes with its own, different can of worms, right? Like it's a pro organization, it's a pro sport. You got people, traveling, putting in their livelihood to try to do this, and then you're playing against a 12-year-old kid on the boards who maybe doesn't have the same level of trash talk, respect, like time in the game, like whatever it may be. So obviously you're one of the more vocal people about this topic. What's kind of your opinion on that part of cornhole, and how do you think we go about like traversing that landscape, obviously, because it's now here more than ever?
First off, I want to say I don't hate the kids at all. Like I think it's great that they found something that they can compete in at a young age like that. I started at a young age, but nowhere near like 9 years old like Cash. But for me, my opinion is whatever's going to grow the sport the biggest, that's what we should do. Do we know what that is? Probably not. We don't know. But I do know when it comes to gambling, DraftKings, them kids, nobody's going to be able to bet on the kids. And I think that's what's ruining everything right now. I think they're talented enough to be pros. Yes, they've proven that. But look at every other sport out there. There's no kids. Like, I see both arguments. I see the parents of the kids side. I see why they want to be here. And it's because, like, ACL let them dip their foot in the water. They've already gave them a chance to be a pro. It's hard to take that away from them when they've already been pros. Yeah. And I get that 100%. I understand that. But you have to look at the long-term picture here. I was talking to a buddy recently about this, my buddy Jamie. And let's say we take all the juniors out next season and the sport grows and it keeps growing and growing. And then by the time Cash is 21, the sport is where if you're a top pro, you're making $350,000 a year guaranteed. Or let's say, and they're upset. They're upset about it. Like when they take them out, they're pissed off. I get that. But let's say we don't take them out, and by the time Cash is my age, the sport hasn't grown, and it's the same thing. Would you rather take one for the team and just grow up a little bit and wait your turn and be ready? And by the time you're there at 21, the sport is humongous and you're making crazy tons of money. Like that's the way I look at it. I look at long term for me. Luckily when I became the pro, I was already 21. So like I was good. I was fine. But I don't know, man. I see both sides, but for me, at the end of the day, whatever is going to help the sport go to the next level, I think that's what we should do.
Yeah, I know, like, obviously you brought up because I've put in some bets on DraftKings before and stuff like that. I actually noticed so DraftKings changed now where if a junior wins, it's now the highest qualifying non-junior pays out, which I think is BS. It's their way to get more money out of it. But
sure.
I don't think, obviously, to your point, I agree. If with sports betting being the landscape it is now in the world we live in, not being able to really have that in full force could have limitations in the future. Another big thing for me is if you look at almost any hop, what thing can you do in your entire life before you're 18 and make money? Like in a hobby, right? Like you're not going to play, kick the can in your neighborhood for $50 a head, like, and granted kids don't play kick the can anymore, but you know what I mean? Where I don't know if Fortnite did this or whatever, but like, even they're not even playing for scholarship money. Like these dudes are playing for cold hard, pull the money out of your wallet, put it in a bank account money, right? Which is a very weird thing to get into when you're 12 years old, 13 years old. These kids are never going to get a real job. Why would they go work 30 hours a week when they're making $3,000 on a Saturday? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So like, I think obviously they have the skill. It's a hobby. To your point, we don't know if this is going to help the sport grow or not grow. But I just think it's tough too, being almost a 30-year-old guy. I go hang out in an event and it's like, I kind of have to put myself in the mindset of like an 18-year-old. Because I'm like, I'm talking to like 5 17-year-old kids right now. Like, like if me and you went out to dinner with Hunter and all the other kids or whatever, me and you were the old people in our mid to late 20s, and it's just like, it's just a weird environment when you're like got, 65-year-old adults and 9-year-old kids. So it's like, and you don't know how to balance that. And from an ACL perspective, it's a weird space to put a lot of personality or like, even the beef that we talked about earlier, or some of the shit talk from JP or Jeremiah. It's like, can he doing that to a 12-year-old? And let's say it hurts his feelings. Now, is he just the devil? Where it's just like, no, he's a 30-year-old dude trash talking at a professional event. Like, it's like, you ain't putting a 12-year-old in pads and put him against Ray Lewis. It's just a different and granted physical, you know what I mean though? It's just like a different mindset. So I'm not sure the answer there, but I agree. I think it's a slippery slope. And before we know it, it could be like, even bigger than it is now.
I guess, go ahead, Hunter.
Because I think like even in darts, for example, like you've seen this with Luke Litter.
Yeah.
Like he's 17, he won the world championship. And I think clinging on to this idea that, okay, it worked maybe in darts. Obviously the sport has grown tremendously because of him. But does that work in cornhole and does that work in this setting? Because there's so many different factors of when a kid comes in, just the professionalism side of things. Like you can't expect a 14-year-old kid to be professional because they're 14, like they're a kid too. Yeah. And so understanding that level of like, cash tournament, yeah, that's cool. A 14-year-old can go win that.
No, I think
but when they come to this open,
I think cash tournament's worse. And the reason I say that, it's funny, it sparked a thought because I thought about the Luke Littler thing. And like, I think the reason that blew shit up is because darts didn't have a lot of kids getting into it and that helped the kids grow.
Yeah.
But like, if you notice now, what's the target market for cornhole? It's like 30 to 50-year-old white men that like hanging out with their buddies at a bar. Like that's like the backyard cornhole vibe, right? Like if you never played cornhole today and you're 30 something, you play pool, whatever, your buddy invites you to a blind draw, you get your shit kicked in by a 9-year-old. Are you ever playing cornhole again? It's just like a different world where like, if you get your shit kicked in by a 40-year-old guy, you're like, no, screw you, man. Let's go again. Like, I'll figure this out. Like, I'm not this bad.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I actually think with this sport, the junior and then they get done, then they're on their phone and they're like laughing and doing stuff. It's just like, the target market of people that are getting into the game, I don't think benefit from getting their shit kicked in by a kid. You know what I mean?
For sure.
But Jamie, I know you had a couple comments. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so like the difference, one big difference in cornhole and all the other sports though is there's no 12-year-old on the planet that's going to beat Luca in a one-on-one match
Right.
in NBA. Nobody.
Yeah.
There's no 17-year-old that's going to beat him. So that's the difference in our sport, where I know it says anybody can play and anybody can win. That's not completely true. But when it comes to like the kids, yes, they can definitely win, and they've proven it. But that's the only difference right now, and I don't that's always going to be their argument. I'm pretty sure is they've already beat us. So like, I still think you need to wait your turn. You need to wait. It's just it's going to be harder now because they're already pros, and like I said earlier, you're letting them put their foot in the water, and then you're about to take it out for until they turn 18. If that's the rule, Cash ain't gonna be able to play cornhole in the pro division for 9 years. That is,
Yeah.
I mean, he's gonna be upset.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's just so weird though, because like, let's say you're a pro. I mean, and granted, we can't really, like you're saying, we can't really compare it to almost any other thing because it's like the physical difference is obviously not there. But like let's just say like you are a 9-year-old baseball player that's as good as Mike Trout, like for whatever reason, like hypothetically different planet we live in. The systems are still in place though that like you can't go play the pros at 9. Like, I don't care how good you are. They're like, we'll develop you, we'll make you even better, we'll get you, you get all these camps, and then eventually you'll get there. Where like in cornhole, it's like, oh no, you go from like, I'm really good to I'm just here immediately. There's no like, hey, let's take him under my wing. I'm gonna train him. He's gonna come out. You're not even gonna know who this kid is, and bam, he like exists. You know what I mean? Like imagine like you met some kid in Carolina that's as good as you are now, and you're like, dude, imagine if I coach this kid for like 5 years, get his mental locked in, how good he, But we don't have that,
Yeah.
Right.
And even
I thought about hold on, let me say this before I forget. You said you brought up baseball. Do you not remember that movie of the kid that threw the ball from the outfield that threw like 100 miles an hour because he had some kind of superpower and they put him in the major leagues? Do you remember what?
No, I don't
you remember that movie? Oh, for real? You ain't never watched that movie?
Maybe. I can't recall. I'm
not a kid was like watching the game. He was a big I can't remember the team, but he was a big fan. So he was like in center field. They hit a home run, but it was the opposite team he was cheering for. So they told him to throw it back, and he just threw it, and he threw like a bullet to the catcher from center field to the stands. So then they were trying to figure out who the kid was. I mean, he's like 13. They end up finding out who it was, put him in the major leagues as a pitcher. And but I thought about that movie when you brought up a 9-year-old that's just as good, but that's also a movie. That's not real life.
Right.
It would never happen.
No. And I mean, like, it's just every other thing. And it's funny. I've talked to people today, and it's obviously we're seeing with the reduction in pros next year to a lower amount even then, and trying to make it more like kind of more into a legit pro, like only the top, whatever. I think as we keep honing down, eventually it will have, like you're saying, they have the foot in the water, but eventually a decision will have to be made of, all right, we're just going to have a junior tour. This is what they do, but like 18 plus for gambling reasons, for different places you guys can travel to, venues, like what I'm sure there's a lot of things that go into, alcohol sales, like a lot of things that go into like age people in the building or people as your stars and whatnot. That I think they might have to make a decision. Either you let them all in or you let none of them in, rather than having this like, all right, this dude's aging out, so now the next prodigy can come in, or like, like I just think it's tough that they have this like limit of, we got 8 to 10 that we allow just to throw them a bone, but like they're good enough to be more than that. So now we're always gonna have to deal with the argument of, man, if we open the floodgates, it'd be all juniors, and it's like, but we'll never know. So you got to make the choice one way or the other eventually,
Yeah. Because I think like cornhole, it's such a crazy sport because there's people that started a year and a half ago and they're competing at opens today. And it's like, I don't think there's a sport anywhere where you can get that good that fast.
No, there's not.
No. And then have your sophomore slump and all of a sudden not exist for like a year.
Yeah, exactly.
like most people. Yeah, I mean, it's a unique game, and I think we're navigating through a lot of waters that are weird. But I mean, I think obviously like there's a lot of drama in cornhole, which we've talked about some. But I think a lot of that also lends from there's a lot of different ways of life and a lot of different ages and a lot of different maturity levels all in the same room at all the same time. Like 20 hours a day, all staying in hotels and hanging out with their friends. You know, I mean, think of like if any of you guys, I played travel baseball, you know, you go in a hotel with your buddies for a tournament. Yeah, you got 10 kids all the same age in a room, and it is just absolute chaos, right? Like 10, 12-year-olds in a room. It's like the parents are losing their minds, whatever. Now multiply that by like 60, put them in an arena, and then they fill up a hotel. It's like God help me, I go to the pool at a cornhole tournament. That is the worst idea you could possibly have. It's like, but it's just there's so many things that change based on the demographics of who's where at what time, you know. So I think it's a deeper thing than people just realize watching the tournaments pan out. Like, yeah, there's some kids that are making runs, it's awesome. But I think just when you make these your poster children to an extent, but like if the game becomes even more and more and more juniors, that changes the vibe of the event though too. Like if you walked into the gym or walked into the venue and it's 80% 14-year-old kids, you're like, what am I doing here? You're like, I'm almost 30, man. Like, what am I doing?
I like the idea of the junior pro tour and the women pro tour, senior pro tour. That's where they should be though. It ain't like you have to quit playing. Like they're giving you another platform to play with the junior pro tour, and I like that idea. I don't know what's the rules next year. Did they say how many? I heard it was the juniors were going way down though.
Yeah, I thought it was a little less, but I think because they're going to like 25 junior pro tour pros or something like that. And also, I think they should be playing for scholarship money personally. Like, it's just like, I mean, every other sport you play in that plays for money, unless you take your pro card, which then you sacrifice any ability to have college eligibility or whatever. And like, correct me, like if you go pro in anything, can you play college sports in anything? Like in anything, you know, like, can you go play baseball? You know what I mean? So it's like, so they're making
so what are they going to do?
Right. So they're making their choice at 14. Like, all right,
I think that should not be even an option to do that at 14, because what if in the next 5 years they just hate the game of cornhole?
Right.
They just ruined everything they had to go to a college to do. Like, it just, I don't even think it should be an option.
Right. And also, I mean, like, dude, even the people that play in these events, like when they do win prize money, let's say you're the best amateur golfer in the world, right? Like you play college golf, they go to these huge tournaments, like pro tournaments, like the low amateur at the Masters, right? They placed in a spot where a pro would make like 800 grand or 500 grand or something, and they don't get anything. And if anything, they get a little scholarship money or something, and they're totally cool with it because they're like, my time will come, right? I'll get there eventually. Right. It's like I'm not sacrificing my last years of this or that or the other thing. But I just feel like it's just not there, you know. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes from here, I guess. But
I mean, you got to think it's a bonus tournament too. Like they go to an open, they get to play juniors, and then they get to play doubles and singles. Where we go to a tournament, I mean, and I'm not like complaining, like it's not a huge deal, but like they get more practice in, so they're ready to go by doubles because they've already played a tournament this weekend against good competition.
Or even if you make their prize money entry fees, like in terms of like, and there's a separate way to pay for events for juniors that are like, hey, if you place X in a tournament, it's worth this much credit towards entry fees, right? Where it's like, now you can play advanced elite singles, right? For free, basically. Like you earned your way in, but they're not just, it's not always just a money thing. And I get, then why would you travel and why would you do this and that? And it's like, it's just there's so many avenues about both sides of the conversation, right? So that's why it's such a tough decision to make. But eventually, I mean, something's going to have to give it in some direction. But I guess we'll see next year if they lower it down a little bit more, and we'll see how the junior pro tour thing goes, and maybe that is a big success, and we don't even have to have this conversation. It just slowly kind of like secretly migrates that direction, and all of a sudden we're not hearing about it or whatever, you know. But last kind of section we wanted to talk about, obviously having one of the greatest players to ever play the game, we have to ask this question. You know, what advice do you have for someone who is like an elite player? Obviously, you see a lot of advanced elites. You see a lot of people in your local area that could throw a 9.5 to a 10, but they can't make that next step, right? Like, do you think it's shot shaping? Is it mentality? What do you think does that little flip a switch? Or even pros. I mean, there's mid-tier pros that have been mid to bottom pro. Like, why do we see the same 40 people at the top every single time? Like, what is that little it factor, you know?
It's definitely the mentality. It's what most of them don't even believe they can be world champs. And to be honest, everybody's not going to be a world champ.
Yeah.
If that was the case, I mean, that would never be the case. And nothing you do in all the sports, everybody's not going to win the World Series. Like, it just is what it is. But I mean, for me, as long as I've been playing, I've always, since I started playing, my whole goal in the beginning, when I was not good at all, I said that I was going to be the best player to ever play. I was going to be the number one player. I was going to win a world championship. And I just knew that it was going to take sacrifice, hours of practice, days when I didn't want to throw, just to go out there and throw every day and just work hard as I can. And I believed in myself that if I did that, I would be the best player. So it's definitely mentality that a lot of players want it, but don't want to put in the work. And I mean, I've had people ask me, and we talk about it, but I'm like, you have to put in the work to even have a chance to get there. You can be hot one day and play good at a tournament, but when this sport, if it ever goes away, or when you get so old you don't play anymore, where do you what do you want people to say about you in the sport? Like, do you want to be that pro that nobody remembers, or is your mentality to be that player that everybody remembers, that you were a good person, but you were also a beast on the boards? And that's my whole goal. I want kids to look up to me when I'm 35, 40, and they watch me on YouTube and stuff like that. They go back and watch me on TV. And I mean, the kids do that now, and I'm only 26, and it's a great feeling. But if you want to be at that high level, you have to put in a lot of practice. You don't just go there and lollygag around and waste time. Work on your craft. Like, go put your phone up, record yourself, and watch your practice session. Watch the way your hands when you go in your backswing. Watch. There's little tweaks that you can fix in your throw that people don't understand. That it's that sometimes it's that much of a tweak that will change everything with your throw. Sometimes your wrist turns too much. Sometimes it don't turn enough. Sometimes your grip is not good. You have to change up your grip. I've done probably 37 throws in my career and probably 10 different grips. But I mean, I don't know. I always told myself there was always something I could fix to make it even better. And a lot of players will be scared to change because they don't want to suck. That's the mentality. You have to have the opposite mentality. I told myself that I would still win this tournament if I went from stepping to standing in a day span. I still believe I can win. And just a lot of people, man, this sport, like, not the pros, but the people that want to be pros, are most of them don't want to be pros. Most of them just want to compete.
Right.
And that's cool. If you just want to compete, that's fine. There's nothing against that. But if your goal is to be a pro and be a top pro, just know that it's not going to come easy, that you're not going to wake up and just be a great player that everybody knows. You have to put in that work.
Yeah.
But when you do put in the work and it pays off, that's the best feeling in the world.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, everybody wants the rewards. They just don't want to put in the work for it, right? Or they don't realize, like even you posting TikToks, or Hunter, you posting TikToks, and then you guys playing the tournaments, being in the live stream. You don't post your TikToks of every second that you're practicing. Like, people don't see all the stuff off the boards that you're doing, right?
Right.
And Hunter,
Exactly.
when he was explaining that, didn't it feel like you were on a phone call with me talking about me changing my throw 37 times, 12 different grips?
For sure,
I'm like, because I do the same thing. I set up a phone and I'm like, oh, my wrist turned too much, turned too little. But it's like, it is those little minor tweaks that like literally make the huge difference. I mean, you went from like one open left foot to the next open right foot, like back to back weeks, and people on the live stream would talk about your throw and stuff, and it's like, well, he's still winning. So
Now I am like doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm not changing anymore because I have found something that I know I can throw at a very high level. I have all the shots. That was the whole thing when I used to change. It was because I was always lacking on one little thing, and then I found something that I could pick that up, but then I would lose something else. Like, for example, the step over shot, the Frank Mullen famous step over. I was doing that. My airmail was 95%. I could do, if I had a sticky bag in my hand, I would be confident in shooting all airmails the whole tournament because I just had that much confidence with that shot for my airmail. But I didn't have a flat bag, so like pushes were way harder and all that. But now, the throw I've been doing for a while, I have all the shots. It just, now I have to get into I have to get in there and start practicing. I have to start putting in the work because I'm not gonna lie, I did not practice for a while. Like I have not took it. Honestly, I have not had fun in a while. I mean, it really does suck losing the kids when, like, I don't know. I'm not taking nothing from the kids at all. That's not what I mean. But it's like the sport has been at a standstill for so long. And for me, like, I'm upset by that because I love cornhole. I love the sport. I chose a path to be a professional cornhole player. I want to see it get as big as possible, not just because of the money, but I mean it's a passion of mine. Like I love cornhole. I love watching people, my friends play, and when they win. So for me, I don't know. I quit having fun with it. It got to a point, and I didn't see the point of practicing every day. If I was going to practice every day, go lose to a 9-year-old, 14-year-old, what was the point? So I'm serious. That was my mindset. But here recently, now I made a post and I said, um, I think I said, done with the excuse or no more excuses. It's time to work. And I meant that. Like I'm practicing every day. I don't care if I don't feel like it. It doesn't matter. I'm going to be in the lab. I'm going to be putting in work every single day now.
Yeah. And even like practice, a lot of people just, I went and threw for 4 hours, and it's like, yeah, but you weren't actually focused on anything for probably 3 of those hours or even more.
Or you're going for TikTok clips for the entire time. You're not setting up blocks or trying to push and replace. And then bonus question. So obviously, I know you're the biggest fan of Round Limited. What's your opinion on Round Limited? And do you think it's a good shakeup for the game, or how is it from a player's perspective?
I personally don't think it's good for the game. I mean, I can't lie about it. Like I just can't. There's nothing positive that comes from that, from me, in my perspective. Now, other people have different perspectives, different opinions, but even if I won the round limited tournaments, I still wouldn't like it. I just don't see, because I've been playing for so long that I've seen so many comebacks.
Yeah.
Everybody loves a comeback. Like everybody loves that. And you don't get that. And even take out the comebacks. Let's say it is a good game. It's 6-6, round 10. I'll give my last example with Zach Aiken. My last game. Oh yeah, by the way, if you didn't know this, y'all watching, my last open, I lost to 2 more kids. Lost to Zach Aiken,
Gabriel Clausen,
and Gabriel Clausen. But in that game against Zach, it was a really good game from start to like the 10th round. I think he's winning 6-4. This dude, I looked at his stats, and in the game, he missed 2 bags.
11-7, yeah.
Yeah, he missed 2 bags. So I already know.
Okay, so let's resume back to it's 6-4, like round 10 against Zach Aiken in your really good game. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I didn't know how many bags he's missed. I just knew the kid was on fire. So I knew like he only has 8 bags left. He's probably not going to miss them unless I make him miss. So obviously I have to try to block to make something happen. Of course, I miss left. And then I try to block again to wash out the round at least, so I won't be down 4 going into round 11. So I missed left again, and he got 4. He got 4. No, he did not get 4. He got 6 because I was pissed off because I missed 2 of them blocks because I'm in round limited and this kid ain't missing. I am pissed, and I missed my last bag to the right. So I don't know if you saw this on live stream, but I definitely say out loud, F round limited. I probably shouldn't have said that because that's not professional, but like I'm so over this round crap that
it makes you change your game. I mean, you had to change, like you were cooking too, but you're like, well, now I have to do something that I wasn't doing for the last 40 minutes. Just
dude,
because
they checked the stats. It was round 10. I was down, or after that round, he was up 12-4. I was throwing a 10-8.
Yeah, with a 6.
Like, yeah. So, like that right there, like that just doesn't make sense to me. Like, I didn't train for the last 7, 8, 9 years to lose off a round. Like, yes, people are gonna be like, but you lost to Zach. Okay, technically, yes, I lost to Zach, but I wouldn't have changed like that if we're playing the 21. Like, it's a different ball game. There's a different mentality in a game of 21. You know, you can afford to mess up sometimes. Like, I just don't like the feeling that comes with it. Like, it's just not real cornhole to me. That's like watching. Let's say you get tickets and go watch a baseball game. No, NFL. The first one to score a touchdown wins. You know how many people would quit watching football if that was the case?
Or if it was like when there's 2 minutes left in the half, the game ends.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
oh shit, it's 2 minutes and 8 seconds. You're throwing Hail Marys from your own 20. You know, it's like
Yeah.
And then just take my game out the picture of me and Zach, and I just watch other games, and it's like, especially on TV, this is why I don't agree with it when it gets to TV. If somebody's getting beat like 9-4 round 10, and they missed that first block, they're going to not care the rest of the game. Or let's say it's round 8, they're not going to care anymore. So they're going to look like they're a terrible pro that has no talent because they just don't care.
Mm.
They're trying to get the game over with because they know they can't come back. That is not good for the sport. You don't want Joe at home watching and seeing like this is a top player, or they don't even know he's a top player, but he's definitely not throwing like a top player because it's round limited and he's already down. He knows there's no chance. And that
it leads to a lot of anticlimactic finishes and a lot of the games you watch. Like when you're watching live stream games, it's like even round 9, 10, if they're up like 7, you can most of the time turn the stream off. Like unless it's Aaron Davis down, I'm like, all right, he can actually score like a 9.
It's like, okay, is it possible to come back? Yes. Is it likely? No. You have to be. There's 3 things that have to happen if you're down 7 in round 11. You're down 7, you got 2 rounds to play. 1, you have to be perfect with your block back. And when I say, and sometimes that don't even work because all they have to do is go over it or go around it. Like, so the first thing is you have to be perfect at your defense. Second thing that has to happen, they have to fuck up. They have to mess up.
Yeah.
And the third thing is you have to do something with the block to capitalize in that big pressure situation. So that's 3 things. And that's not easy to check mark on all 3 of them.
And you might still only get 2 or wash.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. You have to hope that all of them things go in order and you can get all check marked on all of them for you to come back in that game. So that's what I'm saying. That's not cornhole to me.
Right. Or you
cornhole
hope that their mental game is worse than yours. Like that they get nervous or something.
Yeah.
But if you're at a game and you're down 7 against Devin or somebody who's just like who's been there before, like you're in your head too. You know he's not going to give me fucking 6. Like I got to manufacture this.
But really though, I was in the opposite situation in Myrtle Beach. I was playing Sarah. I played Sarah Cassidy my first game. Mm-hmm. I was up 5 points in round 11. So instead of saying like, basically you were basically saying Sarah's basically saying that I'm not going to give up 5 points to her. In my head, I'm like, don't fucking give up 5 points to her. Like, don't choke.
Yeah.
So like in my head, I'm doing that because that's the situation we're in. Like that's how it feels to play round limited. You're either down and you're like, I need them to miss, or you're up and you're like, I don't need to miss. Like I cannot stand the shit, man. I don't like it. I don't think it's good for the sport. I do remember hearing Jake Brandon saying he thinks it's great and he loves it, but he's not the one playing it. Like if I was commentating it, it'd be different. But as a player, I don't think it's good. Like I don't see any good that comes from it.
I think go ahead, Connor.
And even like, okay, so let's say when you're playing round limited, let's say Jamie messes up, he gives me like a 5 spot first round. Now the rest of the game, I'm gonna do everything in my power to just hold down the board. Where maybe I'm a block and roll guy, but since he gave me this little ounce of lead, I'm literally just gonna try to hold on. Where Jamie could be down 5 points in a game to 21, he's like, all right, whatever. Like, okay, you got to beat me to 21,
right?
Yeah.
Where like you can score 5 and then just wash and be like, I won the game 5-2.
Yeah,
it's like
for sure.
Here's the difference right here in the mindset is, all right, let's say it's round 5. You in a round 12 game, you still got 8 rounds to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's say I give up 5 points. Let's say the game is tied and I give up 5. First time, as soon as I give up 5, if it's round limit like that, I'm like, fuck. Here we go. Here we go with this shit. We only got and like every round, if you don't get it back, you're gonna be thinking that every round. But let's say we're playing a 21. It's me and whoever, top pro, and I give up 5. Let's say it's 10-10, and I give up 5. Not 1 second am I going to be. I'm going to be net. Not 1 second am I going to be negative. I'm going to go down to the other end like I didn't give that up and just continue to go. Obviously, I know they need 6 points to win, but there's no negative mindset. I'm going to be the exact same like I didn't give up the 5 points. That's the difference in the mindsets right there.
Yeah,
For sure.
Well, Hunter, I know you've had success around. I mean, I think on the flip side, for a lot of players that are maybe in that middling road or that are good players, the benefit of round limited is you only have to have 12 good rounds. Like you don't have to have a whole game, you know? So I think when, you know, Jake Brand or some other people are coming from, I've talked to them, they're like, you know, then really anybody can win at any game, you know, because all these players are good enough to throw 11 for 12 rounds, you know. Can they do it for 40? Probably not, you know, but it's just a different game. But I can see, especially from the consistency of you playing long into brackets all the time, how it's just like, you're like, all right, well, if I'm going to go this far in a bracket, I'd rather just play the whole game out at this point. You know, we're all good enough. When you're in the top 4 of a bracket, we're obviously all good enough to win the damn bracket. Let's just play games now. You know, even if they did round limited for the first couple of rounds and then just got rid of it. Because I don't know, obviously people say time constraints. Another thing they say, like, oh, like,
bro, they cannot say time. Like they cannot use that anymore. I feel like the tournament still goes just as long. Yeah. Because I mean 12 rounds is really not a lot, but sometimes the 21 against other pros, you do end the game in 12 to 15 rounds. Right. So, but I don't care about it. It's just the feeling of knowing that you have a time limit here. It doesn't matter how good you're throwing. At the end of this time limit, whoever's up wins. That's what I don't like. Yeah, I hate it. I can't stand it.
Yeah.
Well, Hunter, anything else you want to bring up, or you good to go?
No, I'm good for the episode. Yeah.
Jamie, any sponsors you want to shout out? Obviously, you got AAR Cornholes. Anybody else you want to talk about?
Yeah, Zuka. Jason Water. He's a good dude. Has a good product. If you don't have a Zuka, go there, get you one today.
Yeah, me and Hunter both got one. Obviously, one of the best. Like, it's a chair and a portable carrying case. Just it is honestly a go-to cornhole accessory. It's pretty important.
For sure.
A lot of people sit on them too. Like during their game. Like I think that's good too. But I just can't sit because I feel like I'm not focused.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of good stuff. Appreciate you stopping by. It was a fun episode. But yeah. Anybody got any questions for Jamie? Put them in the comments down below. He'll probably ignore us, but we'll ask him anyway. But appreciate you guys stopping by for another episode, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. All right. Now we're not live, Jamie.
Yeah, I know. So